What simple piece of advice has significantly improved your life? Story 1. Most people just judge you for a few moments, then you'll never see them again in your life, and they will have no weight whatsoever in your life. Ignore them. Learn to wait and not be consumed in hurry or immediately wanting a good thing that needs to happen. Story 2. Live in the present, not for yesterday, not for tomorrow, but for right now. Most things that worry us or give us anxiety are things that have already happened or things that we think might happen. Learning how to fall in love with the journey instead of feeling the constant anticipation of already being there or doing the thing helps us be happier and more fulfilled as humans. Story 3. Get enough sleep. Even better, go to bed early and get up early. I spent years of my life in a sleep-deprived state just to stay up later and play video games or watch videos. Every day felt awful. It affected my mental and physical health. Turns out that if you're chronically sleep-deprived, your entire life turns to shit. My work performance, relationships, health, etc., all were worse because I was in a sleep-deprived stupor all the time. Story 4. People I know and that are close to me died in their sleep, had stroke and lost ability to talk and walk and eat, etc. And that was the only thing I needed to change my life to the core, and I decided to do everything that makes me happy, literally chase my dream no matter what, and stop worrying about irrelevant shit, people, fights, etc. Not really an advice, but a warning. Story 5. For me, it is actually something I wrote. I'm not sure if I got it from somewhere, so tell me who to credit. Life is always gonna suck. There will be no point where you have zero burdens or struggles, so you just have to enjoy life while dealing with shit. You only have one life, so it's really not worth it to be sad. Story 6. Security is largely a superstition. It does not exist in nature. Life is either a grand adventure or nothing, baby. Go have your adventure, cause I'm having mine. Big Sen, peace out, one love. Big Sen. There is no paradise for you to escape to. Guts, Kentaro Miura. These two quotes, and their sources, helped me realize that safety and paradise do not exist as a static feeling or set of commodities that I can grasp, but rather as the strength and flexibility to deal with chaos as it comes. Story 7. Don't argue, be silent and see what happens. I will debate friends for fun, but never someone who seems in the mood for conflict. Took until halfway through my 30s to understand why so many people don't get involved. It's not only easier psychologically, but surprisingly more productive as well. You can always say your banger of a point later on to the right people in a better environment. Story 8. Don't treat others how you don't want to be treated. Fundamentally different to the golden rule. Treat others how you want to be treated. The golden rule implies that your way of treating others is the only way you want to be treated in return. If you are a bro and want others to treat you like a bro, then you act like a bro towards them. If they take it well or not is up to them. It's pretty limited in what you want, since if you find out someone who treats you differently, it breaks your golden rule. It doesn't consider variance in upbringing, cultural differences, etc. Meanwhile, the non-golden rule implies that anything's fair game, and that the responsibility of showing others how to behave towards you also lies with you. If you don't want people to yell at you in road rage, then don't yell at them in road rage. If they do, your perfect argument would be, why are you screaming at me when no one else is screaming at you? It also allows for situations that aren't what you want, yet are still fine. Golden rule equals sign you behave in the ways you like. Non-golden rule equals sign you don't behave in the ways you hate. Story 9. Either get used to living in shit or pick up a shovel and start shoveling. Nobody's coming from outside to help dig you out. When I was in my mid-20s, a friend and roommate of mine totally destroyed my life. He was doing some highly unethical stuff in our shared domicile that I didn't know about. My name was on the lease, so when he was inevitably caught, I was hit by the crossfire. I spent years after that bemoaning my unjust fate. Eventually, I internalized the wisdom that even if you don't deserve the hand you were dealt, it's up to you to do something about it. It might not be fair, but life seldom is. Either dig yourself out or get used to living in shit, because the guy who wronged you isn't coming to fix his mistakes. Story 10. It's okay to need arm floaties, but you have to wear them so you don't drown people around you. Basically, there is nothing wrong with needing meds for your mental health or whatever other type of help/support/etc. You need to function/do the task, but it's not okay to know you need that aid, refuse to use it, and make everything suck for people around you. Story 11. When I was taking scuba diving classes, I was struggling with the taking your mask off and breathing underwater skill. It just feels so unnatural breathing underwater with your nose not plugged. My BF was my instructor, so he explained that so much of diving is mental. Our body can physically do it, but my mind is telling me I can't. I have anxiety, so this is true for so many aspects of my life. I can do it, but my mind is telling me I can't. I've been using that advice to push myself to try things that scare me, and it's really helped. Story 12. 1. Maxim I heard originally from Mad Magazine when I was about 12 years old was, It's easier to get forgiveness than permission. I've never used that to do anything that would purposely hurt somebody, or even if I thought there could possibly be damage or an unwanted effect on someone else. I've used it usually when at work where I'm trying to get some work done, and I'm being delayed because somebody else's isn't doing their work, rather than going to them because people are so afraid of letting anything in their control go, or the supervisor to ask if I could possibly do their work for them because they're taking too long. I'll just go ahead and do it. And then another example is when I was in the military and we were deployed during the Gulf War. I took it upon myself to go and acquire furniture, desks, and such for us to use so that we could be comfortable in our job setting in the medical laboratory. And so I went out to the other areas and the other buildings and found what I needed. And rather than ask for permission, take it, I'd pick it up and go. A couple of times on larger pieces of items, such as shelves, I would grab others and we'd go take it. I found that if you just went and did whatever you wanted, acting like you're supposed to be there and had permission to do it, then nobody would not ask what was going on. Story 13. Stop hitting yourself with the hammer. Last year, I was struggling with immense guilt for a very minor accident had. No one was hurt and nothing was damaged, but I felt awful. I was talking to my therapist about it, and she asked me if I would hit myself with a hammer. I obviously said no, and she followed up by explaining that while guilt is a normal emotion to have, when you dwell on it and continually think things like, oh, I'm such a bad person, and I should have been the one to get hit, all you're doing is repeatedly hitting yourself with a metaphorical hammer. And she asked me if I wouldn't physically hit myself with a hammer. Why would I do that to myself mentally? It's been really helpful when I'm having problems with feeling guilty over different things. I remind myself that I need to put the hammer down and stop hitting myself, and suddenly I can actually move forward instead of sitting there feeling awful. Story 14, do routine things routinely. Make your bed, clean up as you go, exercise consistently, not necessarily intensely, read some, check in with friends and family, invest when able, maintain your things, car, house, mower, etc. You don't have to be aggressive in all or any of these things, but do routine things routinely, and you'll see long-term improvements in well-being. Story 15. Always leave on a positive note. I've learned this the hard way. Enemies accumulate and friends come and go. So your boss was a jackass and wanted you to work on your wife's birthday, or didn't give you the promotion you deserved. If you leave on a good note, 5 years from now, you'll run into your boss, and the only thing she or he will remember is that you worked together. For all you know, they might be a great referral for your next position. So always leave on a positive note. Story 16. Whenever possible, choose to respond rather than react. I think often of this Viktor Frankl quote, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. When facing an unexpected event or outcome, be it negative or positive, this quote and mindset has reminded me to show myself the grace and respect of taking time to reflect and understand before taking action in a response. Story 17. The advice that transformed my life was beautifully simple. Read books and keep an open mind for learning new things, no matter the subject. Following this guidance has been nothing short of revolutionary. Every day I find myself embarking on new adventures through the pages of books and the pursuit of knowledge. It's like having a time machine at my fingertips, allowing me to traverse centuries and cultures. It's akin to living in parallel universes, experiencing myriad perspectives and ideas. Most of all, it's like stepping into a wonderland of endless discovery. This simple habit of continuous learning has enriched my life in ways I never imagined. It has broadened my horizons, challenged my assumptions, and fueled my curiosity. Story 18. If you use a measurement as a target, it no longer becomes a useful measurement. Nobody really cares about whether or not you have a perfect 4.0 GPA, if your credit score is 840, if you sell the most units, etc. Of course, all of these things are nice to have under your name, but you can't get into the weeds with numbers because you will inevitably begin to obsess over them. Just do what you need to do to be where you want to be. Story 19. I asked a doctor what was the easiest thing I could do to improve my health, and she told me it was to go to bed by 10. It was so simple that I implemented it into my routine immediately, and my life has improved in more ways than I can list. I think better, I wake up better, I function better all around. Before that, I would go to sleep at 2 a.m. Just crazy times. My whole life was a mess and my health was terrible. Story 20. Fake it till you make it. I'm not saying lie or cheat, but I was always self-conscious and shy around girls growing up until a high school teacher told me that if you want to improve at something like being socially awkward around women, just fake being confident and outgoing, and one day you'll realize you are. So I tried it out at a local teen disco that weekend, and even though I still felt awkward, I danced with a different girl until it closed. Wasn't too long until I didn't feel awkward at all. Story 21. You absolutely have a drinking problem. Get a hobby, stop drinking, and get your life together. I come from a family of alcoholics. I dated someone for 12 years, and the last 2 of the 12, he was basically an invalid from his crippling alcoholism. I was drinking too in that time, but it was only socially. I left my ex because of his drinking problem and then turned around and was promptly kicked to the curb by the new man in my life because I was essentially doing exactly what I'd left my ex for. Additionally, I was mean, sloppy, and hateful. I literally thought that if my house was clean, my bills were paid, and I did okay at work, what I did Friday evening, Sunday evening affected no one but me. And truthfully, if you're a decent person, it shouldn't affect anyone else if you've got your shit together. Almost 3 weeks ago, I had another Sunday hair of the dog day drunk episode where I got blackout at 10 a.m. trying to cure a hangover from the night before. I woke up in the middle of the day alone, without my brother, who lives with me, and without my boyfriend, who in hindsight was in the process of dumping me, and had no idea what I'd done wrong in the hours prior. Furthermore, one of my best friends, 6'7", 250 pounds, pounded on my front door until I answered. I looked terrible, and I knew I looked terrible by the look on his face. He sat down and said, "We've been friends for 20 years. I sat in this same living room 2 years ago and supported you through your ex's intervention, but I knew he was already gone. I think there's still life left in you. Get a hobby, stop drinking, and get your life together." My boyfriend did end up dumping me 2 days later, which I expected and probably deserved. 2 days after that, I got a used piano from my neighbor, hauled it into my house, and I've been playing about 25 hours a week so far. I'm 16 days sober from alcohol entirely right now, the longest I've probably ever gone without a drop since I was 20 years old. Despite having zero professional musical knowledge other than appreciation, I have taught myself 3 full songs on my piano in just over 2 weeks. My mental health is in a very good upswing, and I just feel better all around. I love not being grouchy and moody and hungover. I love being able to squeeze every second out of my weekends. I haven't had the Sunday scaries 2 weekends in a row. I've probably done more socially in the last 2 weekends than I have in a year. Last weekend, I was a DD for a friend's birthday party, and the ability to peacefully drive home at 2 a.m. without a care in the world was so refreshing. I spent a long time hearing this same rant from many people over the years and thought it was all horseshit. I thought I didn't have a drinking problem, and even if I did, there's no way that sobriety can be as rewarding as they claim it to be. It's a small battle, but I am winning it for sure. It's nice to break the cycle of generational issues. Simply put, I just like myself more as a person right now. I'm open to the possibility of occasionally drinking in the future for small or celebratory reasons, but as it currently stands, I am saying no to both men and booze for the foreseeable future, and I am very content with that stance. Story 22. You're always the bad guy in someone else's story, so stop caring. I used to overanalyze everything, especially arguments, disagreements, or general conflicts. Once I heard that, I realized whether I am right, wrong, or a bit of both, I'm still going to be the bad guy to the other person. So I stopped caring. I still reflect, but I don't let it consume me or worry me for weeks and months on end. I also have no issue cutting people off who live off this level of drama to keep their lives exciting or make it resemble a soap opera. Story 23. You're going to die. Make the most of your life because your time will come eventually, but don't stress too hard with your shortcomings because also your time will come eventually. Super comforting knowing that I should try my best, but ultimately I can be okay with whatever outcome because it's all temporary. Sure, it's kind of nihilistic, but it's so motivating at the same time. Story 24. I once watched a documentary about obesity and they interviewed a doctor. And when talking about exercise, she said, if you're at 0, anything is improvement. I don't remember the exact words, but the exact wording is not that important. Because it still motivated me to start exercising for the first time in my life. It took the pressure off me to do hours and hours of sports, which was not doable for me at that point in my life. I was at 0. And if I did half an hour of exercise a week, it wasn't 0 any longer, right? It would be improvement, right? Even if it's not the 3 to 5 hour recommended. It's been a year now, and I'm healthier than I've ever been before. I lost weight, gained muscles, improved my mental health, and so on. I actually enjoy doing sports now. Half an hour turned into going to the gym twice a week for an hour and attending a dance class once a week, which is a lifestyle I never thought could be possible for me. And I would never have reached this point in my life if that once doctor in this one documentary hadn't said this. Story 25. You are who you hang out with. Not advising anyone to ditch a friend who is going through a bad time, obviously, but if you are constantly around negative, bitter people, you will become negative and bitter. If you are friends with someone who mistreats others and don't call it out, you are condoning their behavior. If your boyfriend is racist, so are you if you stay with him. No one is perfect, obviously, but lowering your standards just to have people around you make it so much harder to fill your life with people who will actually make your life better. Story 26. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. It's so much more rewarding to do a medicore job at most things than not to do it at all, or to wait until you're confident you'll do it perfectly. Yes, not brain surgery, but art, social interactions, work projects, you name it. You learn so much from the process that you'd never ever learn if you don't attempt in the first place because you're paralyzed by perfectionism. Story 27. If it costs under $1 and you spend time looking for it, buy a dozen. It was basically for nail clippers, pens, rolls of tape, etc. Don't buy one, but a dozen and have them everywhere. This way, you're not spending time looking for a cheap thing. Your wife might have grabbed the nail clippers and lost them, but you know there's another pair in the other bathroom or your side table. Now you're not treating the house apart to find the one pair you have. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Be sure to write comments and share your stories.